Hello, my name is Epic Bubble, and this is a board game special. This is a list of 10 games I'm certainly getting in 2018. This doesn't just mean that I'm trying them. These are games that have caught my attention this year that I'm pretty sure are going to be coming out this year, or at least coming out at Gen Con or Essen. So maybe 2019, but I certainly want to pick them up in 2018. These look really exciting. Now, I will say, a lot of them have to do with just how well they look. I think in recent times, because we have access to digital technology, which allows us to gain better access to good artists, designing artwork for games has become a lot easier, and there's now a new level of standard when it comes to artwork for games. And of course, games are visual in nature, so if a game looks great, I want to get it. I look at my board game collection now, and it's just full of brightly colored games, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So, with all that being said, let's get started. At number 10, it's a classic, and that is Brass by Martin Wallace. This is actually a reprint done by Roxy Games of Brass, which came out a while back, and it's sort of just updating a few mechanics, not that much though, but mostly it's updating the component quality and the artwork. They've done a terrific board if you go look at the Kickstarter page, and it just looks beautiful. For those that don't know, in Brass, you are a baron in the Industrial Revolution trying to gain as much wealth and power and prestige as possible, and you do this by constructing cotton mills, by building canals to transport that cotton, by delivering it to harbors to generate money, while also building up coal mines to supply your factories with as much power as possible. It is, again, a classic, and I think because Roxy have really gone the extra mile in making sure the artwork looks beautiful, it's definitely going to be in my collection. Well, of course it is. I have kickstarted, and hopefully it's going to be arriving in May, so definitely something to look out for then. Next up is Teotihuacan, City of Gods by Daniela Tassini. This is, I want to say, the sequel to Zolkin, simply because it's the same designer and it's the same theme. The mechanics are quite different. It's still what it seems to be is a worker placement game. However, in Zolkin, it was circular discs that would rotate and change what each worker space gave you. In this, all your workers are dice. It seems to be the hot thing to do right now. You know, Voyages of Marco Polo is one of the most successful dice placement games out there. Obviously, Castles of Burgundy is another one. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Zolkin was a wonderful design. Daniela Tassini is a proven game designer, and I'm looking forward to picking this up. Of course, there's also another Aztec game, or this case it's going to be Mayan, and that's Cusco. This is by Michael Keesing, who's done Azul and Riverboats this year, one of which I enjoyed, other which I enjoyed but not as much. And this is actually a reprint of a game called Java, which was part of the Mars trilogy. And in this, you are building tiles, very similar to a game like Tuluva, but you're building tiles trying to grow your settlements, make sure there are fields to provide for food, make sure there's water to help with festival planning, and also trying to build these palaces to gain as much wealth and power as possible. It looks awesome, and of course it's a reprint, and of course Tom Vassell does say if a game is good, it will be reprinted. So this is one definitely that's going to be on my collection. And of course, hey, who knows, maybe I won't like it, but I think it has a name like Cusco, which just reminds me of Disney, the animated movie. It was The Emperor's New Groove back in my childhood, so I can't help but just want to get this. And it has llamas. What's not to love about llamas? Next up is Fae by Leo Colavoni. This is a reprint again of a game called Clans. Now, Clans is this very interesting game in which you are trying to score as many points as possible. On your turn, you'll be moving groups of clan members around the board, and you score points based on their colors. So if you move blue people score points. If you move red people score points. Now, the clever thing is each person gets assigned the color at the start of the game. So each person doesn't know who the other colors belong to. So you have to move clan members, and you want to move your own, but you don't want to give it away that you're scoring points off them. You know, you don't want to move too many red people because you're the red player. You want to try and persuade people, or at least try and hide the fact that you're secretly that color. The artwork, of course, is looking beautiful. From this cover alone, it makes me want to just pick up and play the game. And of course, it's another reprint. So again, I have missed out on a lot of these games, and it's a good reason to add into my collection, especially since they are the new edition. A newer game, and that is Treasure Island by Mark Pequen. This is a game in which you are treasure hunters, or at least pirates, trying to find treasure on Treasure Island. In it, you are essentially working as a co-op team, or at least that's what I think it is, and you're trying to look for this treasure. However, secretly, someone is playing Long John Silver, and they secretly are trying to guide you off the track and get you away from getting the treasure because he secretly wants it all to himself. In a sense, this seems to be a lot like Dead of Winter, in the fact that it's a co-op game with a hidden traitor mechanic, and I don't have a lot of those games in my collection. I only have, I think, Archipelago, and Dead of Winter didn't really strike me. It didn't really tickle my fancy, but I'm hoping this does. And of course, it's artwork by one of my favorite designers, Vincent Detroit. I think his artwork is absolutely stunning. It's very evocative, his art style. So I would just add it to my collection purely based off of that. I am nothing but a shallow person, I should point that out. Next up is Coimbra by Flamia Bassini and Virgio Gellini. Now, this is the same designers as Lorenzo El Magnifico, and Lorenzo El Magnifico was a game I particularly enjoyed. The one downside was that I didn't see a lot of replay value in how it worked. Now, in Coimbra, you are trying to gain as much wealth and power, which seems to be the running case in a lot of these games, by going on voyages of the era, by trying to form favors with the monasteries, and you do so by drafting dice. Now, the cool thing is, depending on obviously which dice you draft, is going to allow you to gain different access to different spots, but certain dice that you draft will also change up the game particularly. So new characters might come up depending on what dice you choose or you don't choose, and so what they state is like the kind of replay value is very, very high because of that. Now, this is kind of taking Lorenzo El Magnifico, and I think it's taking it into a more positive direction. It's the direction that Lorenzo El Magnifico should have went. Again, the artwork is incredibly stunning. I particularly like the art style. So this is, again, a high addition to my list of games to get for this year. Next up, this is probably a game you've already seen my review for, or at least my thoughts video, so you know my feelings of it. Counselor 4 by Simone Lucinia and Daniel Tassini again. This is a game of Ticket to Ride in which you are trying to build trade routes among the various houses or cities, and you do so by negotiating trading deals with the various councils that own those cities. You score points by building trade routes, and you score points by kind of just building routes. There's not much else to the game, but it is very, very fast to play. It's incredibly simple, but there's a lot of reward to it. I definitely recommend checking out my thoughts video for it, and this is the new version. That's the reason why it's on my list. It's the Simon version, which I'm not particularly enthralled by the cover art, but I mean, it's a game that does come with little cool minis now, and it's just a lot more beautiful. It's lost the horrible beige color, and it's just more colorful in general, which is what I like. At number 3 comes a game from my favorite designer, I have to say. Vito Lacerda has done The Gallerist, Vinhost, he's done Lisboa, he's now done CO2, which was a recent Kickstarter, and this is, I think, a Kickstarter game coming this year. Well, I'm not particularly sure about that, but it's definitely on my list, and it's a unique theme. I love Vito Lacerda because he does these always weird Euro-style games, but have a really strong thematic elements to it, which kind of govern the whole game. So in Vinhost, it was making wine, and you felt like a winemaker. In this, you are a thief. You have just robbed a bank, and you're trying to get away with the money. So your actions are going to be to try and locate your hidden loot in various places, and also form the best escape plan, because the person that escapes with the most cash is going to be the winner. There's not a lot of details behind the game so far, but I will want to say it's, of course, a very interesting theme, this idea of escaping with money, and I don't think it's been done a lot before. You obviously have different games like Sherlock Holmes. You also have Scotland Yard, but these aren't games where you are a thief. It's more of just a hidden movement game. But in this, you're actively trying to run away from police, and you can influence their movement. And obviously, you'll be spending some of your cash to do so in the process. One of my favorite designers, and an interesting theme. Yeah, this is probably going to go into my collection. At number 2 is Sherlock Consulting Detective. Now, I enjoyed my time playing the original Sherlock Consulting Detectives. I still have to get the Jack the Ripper cases. I'm not particularly keen on those simply because the Jack the Ripper stories don't sit well with me. But this is a whole new expansion. This is Carlton House and Queen's Park. This is another 10 cases ready to be solved. And it's just a wonderful collection to have. If you have this, the Jack the Ripper one, and the original one, you are sitting with 30 cases of wonderful storytelling to go through and pass the time with. And of course, these make great gifts for people as well. You know, you and your girlfriend just sitting down and playing it is a wonderful evening's experience. Every time I've read through a story with my friends, we've always been enthralled and always been excited by how the story plays out. And of course, the writing has gotten better over time. There's a lot less spelling mistakes in the new edition. So this is a dead brainer for me. I love these kind of games, so it's definitely going to be added into my collection. And finally, it's a game by Eric Lang, art by Adrian Smith, and published by Simon. It's a Kickstarter game from last year, and it's just coming to retail now, and that is Rising Sun. Now, I'm happy I'm getting the Kickstarter version because I've seen how much you get, and it's almost overwhelming. This is the spiritual successor to Blood Rage, but it's very much different. It's an area control game where you control a samurai faction from mythological Japan, and you're trying to gain as much victory points as possible by area control. You do so by forming alliances, hiring monsters and Oni, and also drafting cards to get you certain powers. You're going to be buying cards and also trying to earn favor with the gods, all while fighting with your friends. There's supposed to be some negotiating to it, but from the reviews so far, it doesn't seem to be like that's the main function. It more seems to be your stock standard area control game with a lot of card play. And to be fair, I loved Blood Rage. I think it's one of the best games that Eric Lang has produced. I love the card play in that. So if Rising Sun is anything to go by, I'm going to be happy with it. I've already seen, my one friend had a copy, and I've seen the miniatures for it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I will say the artwork and the art style is quite graphic in some places, quite grotesque. And there's quite a bit of color clashing when you have all these brightly colored miniatures on this very brightly colored board. But hey, this is probably going to be on a lot of people's top 10 lists for 2018, and I'm happy to be getting it into my collection. Anyway, that is my top 10 games that are going to be going to my collection this year. I hope you have enjoyed it. Maybe you have different opinions. Maybe you don't think Rising Sun should be my number 1. Maybe you're more excited for Brass, which was my number 10. But please let me know in the comment section. As always, I put out videos at least once a week. So if you want to see more of them, remember to hit the subscribe button. And of course, if you have liked this video, then feel free to like it. If you have disliked this video, mainly because I just talked about art, then hit the dislike button. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.